Well, I have had a wonderful hour and a half in the green room talking with Vivek Kundra. You are going to have an amazing treat in store of you, for those of you who have not heard him before. This is a real leader. So it's really exciting to be here speaking about what government can do to really integrate all the new technologies and make government more accessible and more accountable and all the things we want. So it's great for me to be speaking about all this, having just spent some time who's someone that you can really believe in, a real leader who can actually make all these things that we want to see come true and become reality. It's an extraordinary time that we are living in. And I have been going around the country speaking about it, as I've published a book called Third World America that deals with all these dramatic changes we are undergoing. And so as we are looking around the country, we have this inflection point where, on the one hand, we have a real major crisis in confidence when it comes to government. And on the other hand, we have an enormous amount of creativity that has been unleashed at the local level around solutions. So it depends really on where you are looking. It's almost like having a split screen. And if you're looking at one part of the screen, you'll get really depressed. And if you're looking at the other part of the screen, you're going to get incredibly inspired and optimistic. So I want to do a little bit of both today, depress you and then cheer you up. So what is depressing is that all the failures of government for years now, the way that it has tried to run everything in a command and control way, the way that it has avoided transparency, the way that so many contracts have been allocated without accountability, the way that its default position has really been, let's just keep everything secret. All those things, plus the fact that there seems to be an unfairness in the way the system works. So if you can play the system, you do really well. You get bailed out, you get contracts no matter how badly you perform. And if you don't know how to play the system, if you're not big enough to play the system, then you get foreclosed even if you actually haven't done anything that deserves to have your home taken away from you. So while all that is going on and the crisis in confidence is spreading, we have, on the other side, the other part of the split screen, an incredible unleashing of creativity. We have many, many people around the country who have basically given up on trying to have government create the conditions for jobs or solve problems, and they are using social media to come up with solutions themselves. For example, if you got tired of filling hundreds of applications to get a job, you may just go to Etsy.com and decide to turn your hobby into a job. Or you may go to Swap.com and try to swap what you have for what you need. So all that is spreading, and what we in the media need to do is to put more of a spotlight on what is working, instead of just putting the spotlight on what is not working, and of course on all the shiny objects, as Jon Stewart calls it, like Balloon Boy or Reverend Jones, or whatever the story of the moment is that the media pursue in our herd mentality. So Andrew Rorschach said that we are moving from e-government, which is just the idea that somehow you put a website up for each department and that makes it all transparent, to we government, where government becomes like a platform empowering citizens. And when citizens are empowered, it's what we're seeing with the iPad. When you have all these apps, including killer apps. One of my favorites right now is actually literally taking data about crime and creating safety apps as opposed to killer apps, like Stumble Safely, that provides information for your community that can make your life safer. Or as Vivek was telling me, when he was working here in the district, he had a competition and citizens came up with their own apps. including one which I love, where is it? The one around a bar finder, which was a bar finder but with a difference. It could tell you which bars were more likely to be the scene of a crime or a shooting, and which bars, therefore, you should avoid if you're going bar hopping in the district. So here are some of the key things that government can actually do right now as we're moving to a moment when the crisis that we're going through can also become an incredible opportunity for innovation. The first one is, of course, accountability. We are all talking about that. Politicians have always talked about it. But now we can actually make it happen. Accountability around government contracting and procurements. Accountability that would end this kind of asymmetry that I mentioned, where if you are powerful enough, you can get the contracts and keep them secret. And one of the things that Vivek has been able to do is to put the flashlight on these contracts and actually put an end to a lot of these contracts, which I'm sure has not made him popular, but which is exactly the direction we need to go into if we're going to turn around how government is perceived. So basically, we're moving from the expectation that government is in charge and we are treated like subjects to the new era where the people become the co-creators of government. And I remember just before his death talking with Jonas Salk, who was telling me that we're moving from what he called Epoch A to Epoch B. Now, Epoch A was about survival and competition. And Epoch B is about meaning and collaboration. So in Epoch B, collaboration is going to be key. And we see that, again, being unleashed at the local level. But we also see how that can be helped at the government level through using government as a platform and through all these apps that citizens can create. The other element that we have all been clamoring for is more access to information. Now, Vivek has done a huge favor to all of us with data.gov, because that's really a way for us to have the data available. And then when the data is available, we don't even know all the things that it can lead to. OpenCongress.org is another way to access legislation, and it makes the government's Thomas operation seem like very much like a 19th century application if they had apps in the 19th century. And now the use of social media is something which some politicians are learning how to do really well, and some are kind of making fools of themselves, retweeting Lady Gaga, but that's another story. If you want to see a politician really using social media well, follow Cory Booker. I follow Cory, the mayor of New York, and this morning, for example, he retweeted someone who had sent a tweet saying that there was a red and green flashing light at the intersection of Lockwood and Raymore Street, and they were both flashing at the same time. And Cory Booker retweeted, "I'm on it." Now, that really gives you the sense that your government is accountable. And of course, you need an infrastructure to make that happen, because clearly he's not sitting there reading every tweet. But you can create the infrastructure that processes what the citizens are tweeting or Facebooking or somehow letting you know where the problem is. Now, citizens have also created their own apps around that, like seeclickfix.com, where you can literally identify a problem. It could be a pothole, a broken window, whatever. You identify it, you make it clear where it is, and then somebody can fix it, instead of letting the government know where the problem is, and maybe it will be fixed by the next generation. So at the same time, what Cory Booker has done is brought together a tech core of technical advisors who are keeping him informed of the latest technologies and how he can use them to better serve his constituents, because that's really what it comes down to. The use of social media to be better at what politicians are elected to do. We are also seeing the way Elizabeth Warren now wants to use social media and new technologies to give citizens more information around their credit cards, around their mortgages, so that they can actually do some competitive shopping. So you can see government's role here in a way that is so much more effective than simply having regulators who so often are captured by the people they are regulating. Because again, we have the revolving door. They are regulating the ones that they're going to be employed by very soon at a much larger salary. So it's in their interest to go easy. I mean, look at how many regulators Fannie and Freddie had. Lehman Brothers had actually regulators living with them. We saw the problems again with the mining industry after the Upper Big Branch disaster. So we need to move beyond just regulations and actually shine the light on what is happening in a way that is accessible to everyone. So you also heard about what's happening around the vets and the blue button and the way that we are making access to health care much easier and much more effective, again, by using new technologies. But all that cannot be achieved without a proper infrastructure. So as I've been going around the country and seeing what's happening at the local level, I see the need to take what's happening that's working and then accelerate the good stuff and bring it to scale. So let me give you an example. In Portland, Oregon, Seth Reams lost his job as a concierge. And after filling 500 job applications and not getting another job, he realized that the one thing he had available was time. So he created a site called I'veGotTimeToHelp.org. He brought together others, mostly unemployed, but some not. And together they've helped thousands of people. Sometimes it could be something small, like a pregnant woman moving from her apartment. Sometimes it could be something larger, like providing childcare during an emergency. But bottom line, it became like a Craigslist for service, bringing together supply and demand. I'm glad to see Craig is somewhere here, a big hero of mine. So that now needs to be scaled. So as I've been talking about Seth Reams wherever I go, whether it's on Jon Stewart or Bill Maher or here, he started getting applications, literally, from around the country, from over 50 cities, asking for help to start branches of We've Got Time to Help. So we've set him up as a not-for-profit and are helping him create the infrastructure to be able to scale what he's doing. But the bottom line about that is that it's something that goes beyond left and right. Whatever you think the role of government should be, we all want it to be more effective. And whatever you think the role of government should be, we all recognize that government cannot do everything without the participation of local citizens. Basically, democracy is not a spectator sport.